All right, today we're heading deep underground in China to check out a mystery that is literally carved in stone. We're talking about the Longyou Caves, this huge subterranean world. And here's the kicker. There is not a single historical record that they were ever built. Not one.
So the story of how these were found is just incredible. It doesn't start with some big archaeological dig. Nope. It starts with a single curious farmer back in 1992. You see, in his village, there were these ponds that just never dried up, ever. The locals even called them bottomless ponds. And one day, this farmer decided, you know what, I'm gonna figure out why.
So he gets his hands on a water pump and starts draining one of the smaller ponds. And for 17 straight days and nights, that pump just kept on running. Can you imagine? Finally, the water level starts to drop. And what it revealed? Well, it wasn't the bottom of a pond. It was the entrance to a vast, totally impossible world, all of it carved by human hands.
So let's talk about the scale of this place, because what they found wasn't just a cave, it was a whole complex. And honestly, the size of it is just mind-bending.
1 million. That's the number. 1 million cubic meters of rock, that's the estimate of what was dug out to create this place. And get this, every single chunk of it was chipped away by hand. Think about that. By hand, probably in almost total darkness. It's just staggering.
Now, to really wrap your head around that number, let's put it into perspective. 1 million cubic meters, that's nearly half the amount of stone used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. You know, only one of the most famous building projects in all of human history. But here's the crazy part. Unlike the pyramids, this whole massive project was done underground, in secret, and then just completely forgotten. How does that even happen?
And this is where the architectural genius really shines. Just look at the stats for the first 5 caverns here. You've got Cavern 4 hitting a height of 18 meters. That's like a 6-story building underground. Or look at Cavern 2. It's over 1,000 square meters, but the whole thing is held up by just 4 relatively thin rock pillars. The engineering precision here is just off the chart.
So this really brings us to the core mystery, right? The big question. How on earth did an ancient society with no modern machines pull off a project of this size, and more importantly, this precision? And maybe the weirder question is, why? Why do it all in secret and then leave absolutely nothing behind? No records, no stories, not a single mention anywhere.
Okay, so we're not going to find the answers in any history books, but believe it or not, scientists have found clues written right into the stone itself. It turns out the people who built this place weren't just diggers. No, they were expert geologists.
See, the caves are carved out of something called argillaceous siltstone, basically a type of sandstone. Now, the good news is it's pretty easy to carve. The bad news, it's got a hidden weakness, a really dangerous one.
So, laced throughout this sandstone are these things called clay interlayers. And they are exactly what they sound like. Thin, weak, super unstable layers of clay. If you're carving a massive cavern and you hit too many of these weak spots, the whole ceiling could come crashing down. We're talking catastrophic collapse. This whole project was like a high-stakes game of Jenga with a mountain.
And this is where it gets really cool. This is how modern science proves these ancient builders knew exactly what they were doing. Researchers looked at the rock composition, and here's what they found. The stable, finished caverns, they only have about 3.6 of these weak clay layers on average. But you go look at these little abandoned test tunnels they dug nearby, that number jumps up to 4.4. Now that might not sound like a huge difference, but in geological terms, it's the difference between a solid structure and a death trap. They were actively seeking out the best, most stable rock. This was no accident.
So what this tells us is that they had a method, a really sophisticated one. First, they'd dig these small test tunnels, these trial adits. Then they'd analyze the rock, counting the weak layers. If it wasn't good enough, they'd just abandon it and move on. They would only commit to excavating a massive cavern if the rock was absolutely perfect. This is basically an ancient form of geotechnical surveying, something that's absolutely critical in all major construction projects today. They were thousands of years ahead of their time.
Okay, so we've established they were geological wizards, but that still leaves the question of the toolkit. I mean, how did they actually do the carving? Every single wall, every ceiling is covered in this really distinct uniform pattern of tool marks. And that pattern has kicked off a pretty big debate.
I mean, just look at it. You can totally see why people get carried away. The grooves are so consistent, so uniform, stretching across thousands and thousands of square meters. It honestly looks like some kind of giant machine came in and just scooped everything out. It's led a lot of people to think,
hey, maybe they had some kind of lost advanced technology.
So let's break down the two big theories here. On one side, you have the machine theory. It says these grooves look too uniform, too parallel, it must have been some kind of lost tech. But on the other side, you have the simple tool theory. And it basically says, hey, let's look a little closer. Because when you do, you see the marks aren't perfectly parallel. They're kind of parallel-ish. They've got the little wobbles and variations you'd expect from a human hand, not a machine.
And yeah, the more you look, the more that machine theory just kind of falls apart. The lines aren't perfectly parallel. If you get up close, you can see the roughness, the little imperfections. And here's the clincher. The pattern is an exact match for marks made by a standard toothed chisel, a tool that stonemasons have used for centuries. So no, it probably wasn't some mystery machine. It was something even more amazing, a testament to the unbelievable skill and sheer endurance of thousands of human craftsmen.
So we figured out how they picked the location, and we're pretty sure we know what tools they used. But that still leaves us with the biggest, most profound question of all. Why? Why go to all this trouble, build this secret underground city, and then make sure nobody ever knew about it? And since there are 0 records, all we can do is guess. There are a few leading theories, though. Maybe it was a secret imperial tomb for an emperor who really wanted to be left alone. Or perhaps a hidden military base. Some people think it was just a quarry, but that doesn't really explain why they'd finished the walls so perfectly. And of course, there's the possibility it was some kind of massive religious site. The truth is, we just don't know.
Now, in this entire sprawling complex, you know how many ancient carvings they've found? 1. Just 1. It's this simple image of a horse, a bird, and a fish. And based on the style, experts think it dates back to the Han Dynasty about 2,200 years ago. So great, that gives us a clue, a time frame for when people were in here, right?
Well, not so fast. There's a twist. See, the carving is way up high on the wall. And the prevailing theory now is that it wasn't made by the original builders on the cavern floor. It was probably carved centuries later by people floating around in boats after the caves had already flooded with water. So our one and only clue, it probably has nothing to do with the people who actually built this incredible place. We're back to square one.
So when we talk about the true wonder of the Longyou Caves, what is it we're really talking about? It's not about wild theories of aliens or lost machines. The reality is so much more incredible. We're talking about a project on the scale of the pyramids that has 0 historical record, an understanding of geology that was light years ahead of its time, the sheer power of human will, mastering simple tools to achieve something monumental, and at the heart of it all, a profound, enduring mystery of why.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of haunting thought. Think about it. For a project this huge, requiring so much time, so many people, so many resources, to leave absolutely 0 trace in the historical record, you really have to wonder, was that silence an accident? Or was it intentional? What secret could have been so important that it needed to be buried and forgotten forever?